maybe you can shine a little bit of light on what do you think it is, or maybe that electricity is from the breath work?
Well, I mean, if you want to go down to a cellular level, you're producing more energy. You're producing more mitochondria. You're strengthening your mitochondria. You're producing more adenosine triphosphate, which is energy within the body itself. And so down to a biochemical level, yeah, you're absolutely doing that. You're also raising your adrenaline by doing the breath work. It's a form of hormesis. This is where I was kind of rambling to. My wife, she'll be like, "Hey, Ronnie," calls me Ronnie the Rambler sometimes. She'll be like, "Wrap it up. Let's go. You get to the point." So if I ramble. My apologies. But what's, so adrenaline's being released. That's for sure. But I feel too, and again, like, this might be woo-woo. I like to say, in terms of like Wim Hof, one of the things I love about him is he brings the woo-woo to reality through science, where it's like, there is this spiritual element and there's also a physical element. And what is actually happening down on a physiological level, down to a cellular level, like that stuff's important, I feel, to know. One, so it's not a mystery where you're just like, pun intended, at the whim of whatever it is that you're doing, but you actually have some control over it, and you have that knowledge of feeling. That's really important. It's really important to tap into that, because the more we can tap into that, the more we tap into our intuition, and we become stronger for it. But I also believe that there's like a real spiritual element that you are able to kind of de-stress and activate. If you believe in Joe Dispenza and what he's doing in terms of, brainwave activation, you can measure that stuff and see how your brainwave frequency alters. So, I mean, you're in a higher altered state, the chemistry within is in a different state. So I feel that you're able to channel more of that energy because there's less weighing you down. I feel that you're able to tap into that source that's within much more optimally than before, because you don't have all this clutter around, So, I mean, there are a few things going on, but in terms of the physical, or the chemical, the biochemical, and within the body, that's what's happening in mitochondria, adenosine triphosphate. You're lessening inflammation, you're raising your adrenaline level, and also on a mental, spiritual plane, I feel that you're able to activate more and commune more with your higher self, with your more spiritual self. And that in of itself is life-giving. It's really energizing.
Oh, it's brilliant. And it's interesting you bring up Dr. Dispenza. I love everything he stands for. And it's funny, man, over the years, being introduced to different people now, such as yourself in person, but people like Wim and Dr. Dispenza through books and or podcasts, we're just taking bits and pieces that they are some of the people that have led to this concept of me being a conduit. And I want to share all that type of information with everybody that I possibly can. And that really led to the whole idea of this podcast. So I'm glad you brought him up as well. So from that cellular level, the chemical level, you're absolutely right in terms of where that electricity comes from. But it's interesting. There's that the spirituality is something that means more to me now than it would have in the past. And that's just through firsthand experience, meditation, experiencing some things that I never quite thought or dreamt possible. I've now lived it. And, it's wild what that does. It leads me
to— How has it changed you?
I think the simplest thing, it's in many, many ways it's changed me, but the simplest thing is it made me recognize how much of an egoic state I was living in not realizing it whatsoever. I remember back to, this was teenage years. So this is going through puberty and such, which is a pretty common time for this to happen. But people would tell me that I had an ego. And, at the time, I would get defensive. I didn't even understand quite what the word meant, but interesting that to get defensive when somebody tells you that you're being egocentric, you're kind of proving the point. If you're not living in an ego-driven way, then somebody can say that to you and you don't really feel it. It doesn't impact you all that much, but it's given me the opportunity to, look within. And, interesting. I'm glad you asked that question, because I was going to say, what that did for me is seemingly what the cold did for Wim, and that's find a sense of purpose. I got joy in the sadness, joy in the pain. Nothing keeps me down when